Dearest 10th semester students, welcome once again. So as we were saying in the previous video, I was just giving you some indication on how to select the topic, how to approach a project. I was telling you as to what the importance of a project of this sort is. The course of action that you are supposed to follow in taking or in undertaking a project of this sort, or in completing a project or making a report on this project. So that was basically what we were dealing in the previous video. Now, just to refresh your memory, in the previous video I had also talked about how to select a topic. So when you select a topic, you are supposed to send it to the teacher concerned for her or his approval. If it's rejected, you will have to resubmit that. If it's accepted, you can move on to the next stage, which is synopsis. But in selecting the topic, as I said in the previous video also, though ultimately it is your interest alone that matters, go through some literature initially, beforehand, and then decide on a certain topic to find out how much material is available, whether that is as interesting as you perceive it to be, because as I said, far more interesting topics may be available. So otherwise also. So those are things that you need to do. And then the purpose of this being to augment your critical analytical skills, analytical skills, then other skills of yours, familiarizing you with a scientific mode of investigation or a scientific pattern in conducting research. These are the objectives of this particular study, or the purpose of this particular study of this sort. So when you're doing that, well, then there are other things that also that you need to keep in mind before selecting the topic. Because it's such a serious and time consuming exercise, you need other things also to be considered before you zero in on a particular topic. As I said, time that is available to you, materials that are available to you, the more obvious things that might play a role in your mind before you decide on a topic. But then there are other things also. One is the multidimensional aspects of this topic. How far it can be applied in a multidimensional scenario. That would automatically make a topic an interesting topic. So if you can get something of that sort, again, that would be better. Not that you should be following that, but then that is also something that you might consider. Similarly, the current relevance of something and then the future prospects of this particular topic. What does this topic or this particular area hold for the community in the future? That's also something that might evince your interest. That's also something that might make a topic automatically interesting. The social and legal relevance or perspectives of this topic, case laws on this, all those things are good enough factors to be considered before you zero in on a particular topic. So those things should ideally be kept in mind. And assuming you have submitted it for approval and the topic has been approved by the teacher, maybe at the first in the first instance itself, or maybe after rejection you've resubmitted it and then you've got it approved. In all those cases, what you're supposed to do is prepare a synopsis after that. Now this synopsis is also not something that you're otherwise familiar with as a part of internal assessment. This synopsis is also a very serious document. It acts as a precursor to what you would be doing within the project. It basically lays down certain things. It basically talks about, one, it gives an introduction on the topic, maybe substantive aspects included. Then it talks about the object and the relevance of the study. Why is it that you have taken this particular, what is the object of the study? What is it that you intend to bring out through taking up this topic? That's what the object of the study is. Then you have something called the relevance of the study. Relevance is not what you would like to bring out of this, but then what made you take up this topic. That's what the relevance of this particular topic is. So there are things that you would like to highlight which forms part of the object of the study, and then there are things that you already might have been existing which might have evinced your interest, and then that may form part of the reason why you have chosen to undertake this particular study also. And then more importantly, something else that should form a part of the synopsis is the literature. I said go through all literature before you finalize on a topic. Now all that is now going to help you when you prepare the synopsis, because in the synopsis you should be ideally mentioning all the literature that you've gone through. It could be articles, it could be case law, you may have gone through a journal, you may have gone through a textbook, you may have gone through online databases. So whatever be that, now all those things will have to be mentioned within the synopsis. But then there is always a problem, because you are about to work on a project, so there might be far more materials that would be available to you over a period of time. But at this particular point of time, at the time of drafting the synopsis, what all materials have you already gone through, what all materials do you intend to go through, well then they can be given separately within that synopsis also. So synopsis is not just a single paragraph document wherein you mention something about the topic that you are about to take. No, the synopsis has to be a 3 to 4 page document, and this 3 to 4 page synopsis should ideally have different sections or different headings or subheadings within that. And what are they? One is the introduction to the background of the study. The third one would be, as I said, the object of the study. The fourth one would be the relevance of the study, and the fifth one would be the scope of the study. Again, the scope of the study is different. When you have a study of this sort, well, the scope of such a study being undertaken can also be mentioned separately. So that will have to be mentioned. And then finally, all the literature that you have reviewed in a certain citation format itself. Now, whichever citation format that is, you follow it on a uniform pattern. If it's MLA, you follow it on that pattern. But then there are certain rules that have been given there. In the guidelines, you would see that. But wherever such rules have not been given, you can follow a certain pattern. That is also mentioned within the guidelines. So I'm not detailing on that here because it's a video, which is why I said you will always have to go through the guidelines given in the website, because that is a more comprehensive document. There's a limit to which I can explain all these things through a video. This is only intended to give you, as I said, a personal experience, which is why we have a video of this sort. But don't just go by the video. It's the document that you have on the website that you should be more concerned with. That's what should be should be given prime consideration by you also in deciding on how to go about this project and the do's and don'ts of this project. So all these things will have to be mentioned separately. And then it's also ideal to bring in something called outcome. As I said, the scope of the subject plus the outcome also. So there is an expected outcome also of the synopsis. Now, once you start working on this project, there is a certain expected outcome insofar as this project is concerned. Well, that can also be mentioned. So as I said, the synopsis would be a 3 to 4 page document with different sections. Introduction of the topic is only one of them. Background of the study, as I said, relevance of the study, importance, what made you choose this topic, object of the study, what is it that you're trying to prove. So those things, or what is it that you're trying to come out with, those things can be mentioned. Scope of the study, you can mention that. And then you can mention the expected outcome of the study. And then finally, literature review also. Literature review means all the articles that you have referred in a certain format, all the journals that you have referred in a format, all the online database that you have referred in a certain format, all the case law that you may have referred in a certain format. Now, as I said, in which format? Just go through the guidelines. We've mentioned it, you can essentially follow almost all formats, but then we've mentioned that. But then it's just that even when you follow a format, ensure that you follow that format throughout the project. You may stick to one particular format as such, you may choose one format over the other, but then if you're doing that, you need to follow that format throughout the study, unless specific guidelines have been mentioned there. So in the guidelines, for certain aspects, certain conditions, prerequisites have been mentioned. For all other things, you can follow any formatting style as is mentioned within those guidelines. So just go through the guidelines and understand that. Alright, so this is essentially what a synopsis is. But then, as is the case with acceptance of the topic or approval of the topic, synopsis will also have to be approved by the faculty member concerned. That is the faculty member handling the subject. So unless the synopsis, remember this is a very, very important thing that you should keep in mind. Unless your synopsis is accepted by the faculty member, you cannot move on to the next stage, which is undertaking the project or writing the report on the project. So the synopsis will have to be accepted. Maybe that in the first instance it's not accepted. The teacher may find some problems with that. The teacher may see that it's not a topic worth accepting, or a synopsis worth accepting. So in such a case, either he may accept that, or she may accept that, or they may reject that, or there is a third case scenario also wherein the teacher might suggest certain modifications to be made in the existing synopsis. So for those whose synopsis have been accepted, you can move on to the next stage, which is starting off with the project and then continuing with the project. For all the others, unless you resubmit the new synopsis, that is if it has been rejected, or if you don't make the change, if you make the changes and submit another synopsis, that is after the suggestions have been incorporated or the modifications have been incorporated in the synopsis, and if that's been submitted for approval, unless those are approved by the guide, not by the guide, sorry, unless those are approved by the faculty member in charge of the subject, you cannot move on to the next stage, which is starting off with the project. So you need acceptance either at the first instance or the second instance, that is after rejection or after suggestion of modifications to be made. You make the changes or you submit a new synopsis and then get it approved, only then can you move on to that. So unless you get the topic approved, you cannot move on to the stage of synopsis. Unless you don't get the synopsis approved, you cannot move on to the third stage, which is preparation of the report and working on the project. So keep this in mind. At every possible stage, it is imperative that you get the consent, the approval of the faculty member concerned or the faculty member handling the subject before you can move on to the next stage. You cannot start off with the project and at a later time say that, oh, I did not get the synopsis approved. Now that I have begun with this, let the synopsis be approved. No, if the synopsis is not approved, then you'll have to change the entire thing. So it always pays to get all these things approved before you actually start off with the projects. All right. Now there are certain things, because certain guidelines, I have certain guidelines also here. Now on how to submit this synopsis. The synopsis will have to be submitted in portable document format. So it has to be submitted as a PDF, not as a Word document. So it has to be submitted as a PDF. As I said, 3 to 4 pages is essentially what a synopsis should be rather. So not more than that, because it becomes too big. And then generally you take 3 to 4 pages for giving an idea with all the headings that I have mentioned, with all the components that I have mentioned. Generally it takes 3 to 4 pages for you to write a synopsis. Now it has to be submitted online. The synopsis has to be submitted online. It can be submitted either as a soft copy, that is a typed one, or it may be submitted as a handwritten and scanned copy also online, if you are comfortable with that. It may be you may pursue any course of action either as a soft copy or as a handwritten and a scanned document. So it will have to be given in PDF and it will have to be given to the teacher concerned. And when do you have to give it to the teacher concerned? The dates would be mentioned there. So there are certain dates mentioned therein. So which means that you will have to go through these dates provided within the detailed guidelines, and you are expected to produce or submit these documents being the topic in the first case and then the synopsis in the second case, to the teacher concerned on or before the date mentioned there, because this is a time bound exercise. So which means you will have to stick to the timelines provided within the detailed guidelines, and maybe some other orders that might be issued by the university in this regard also. All right. So these are some of the more important things that you should be familiar with when writing or preparing a synopsis. The teacher shall maintain records of the synopsis submission, which all have been accepted, which all have been rejected, which all have been given back, sent back for modifications to be made. All those things, records would be maintained by the teachers. So unless you get it approved at a later point of time, if it's been rejected or if it's been sent back for modifications, if you don't do that, well, then that essentially means that your project work ends there, and it would be deemed that you have not done the project, and you would not be marked on the project also. So that's also something that you need to keep in mind. All right. So if you don't do the project, well, that's essentially you're losing out on the external examination itself. So which is why it always pays to get their approval before you start off with the next stage, as I said. And then another thing that I would like to tell you is as regards plagiarism. Being a substantial work, that is, this project being a substantial work, and as I said, this is supposed to be an original work wherein you apply your analytical skills and your critical skills. So it's only an original work that is envisaged here. So which basically means that the rules of plagiarism are also applicable to a project of this sort. So 20% similarity is the ceiling insofar as this particular project is concerned, which means that it should be more than 80% original. The work should be more than 80% original. That is, less than 20% similarity is what is permitted here. So anything other than that would be regarded as a plagiarized work. And now I'm not talking about footnotes and all those things. Well, that would fall beyond this. So those things would be there. But then the fact remains that 80% of it will have to be an original work. So unless that is there, it may not be regarded as a valid project, and you would not be marked on this project, and that would be deemed as you not having completed the project or you having failed in this project, which is essentially the substitute of an end semester examination. So which is why originality matters. Now whatever be that, well, you apply the skills that you have and then make it an original work, rather than get materials from other sources and then directly making that or automatically making that a part of your project. It doesn't help you in this particular case. So which is why make it an original project. I am pretty sure that being a project work of this sort, everyone would be coming out with an original project of hers or his, as the case be. All right. Now there is one more thing that I would like to tell you, which is as regards the chapterization. Now when you write that comes after synopsis, because it's only when the synopsis gets accepted that you move on to the third stage, which is the writing of the project and the undertaking of the project, the writing of the report. Now when you write the project or when you write the report, there are three things that you need, or rather there are three factors that you need to keep in mind. There are three sections that should ideally form part of the report or the written project that you would be submitting. The first section is regarding introduction. So the first section basically talks about introduction, and then possibly maybe the background of the study, and then the contents of the synopsis that we have just mentioned also. So an introduction on the topic, a broader, the synopsis will have a small introduction regarding the topic in question. The first chapter of the first section of the project should also have an introduction on the topic, but it should be considerably broader than what we have in the case of the synopsis. So the first chapter or the first section of this particular project would also have a broad introduction of the topic plus an expanded version of all the contents of the synopsis also. So the importance of synopsis is that, one, it is to be given as a separate document and its approval is mandatory for you proceeding on to the next stage, which is writing the project. Two, this synopsis in an expanded form plus a broader introduction of the topic is essentially what forms the first section of the project, written project, that you will be submitting at a later point of time also. So the importance of the synopsis is at two different stages. One, before you start the project, you need to get the approval regarding the synopsis. Two, after you start working with the project, the first section of the project would generally contain a broader introduction of the topic, a smaller introduction, you would find that within the synopsis, a broader introduction of the topic, plus an expanded version of whatever is stated within the synopsis, that is object of the study, relevance of the study, scope of the study, literature review. Those things you will want to add on to those things. Probably by that time you would have referred much more literature, probably something else might also have come up in your mind. So those additional things will also have to be mentioned, and that broadened synopsis or expanded synopsis would be the first section of your project also, the written project that you would be submitting. All right. So this is insofar as a synopsis is concerned. I get you fair. I understand, or probably I hope that you get a fair idea of what a synopsis would be like. As I said, go through the guidelines. Everything is mentioned there clearly. Don't just go by this video. This is only intended to help you additionally. Now, in addition to what has been mentioned there, that should be given more prominence. That is, the site and the guidelines given there should be given more prominence. But then this is only in addition to, or just to augment whatever has been stated there, that a video of this sort has also been offered. So I hope this helps you insofar as the synopsis preparation is concerned. Now what remains is just the one more video regarding the third and the final part of this, which is writing the project and writing the report, and what are the rules regarding writing of the report also, about which we'll talk in the next video. Thank you for now.